Hey everybody, it's Kyle. Today I've got my sunglasses on. There's no sun. It's because I'm going to talk about my wife, and I might get a little emotional. But I want to tell you a little bit about her because you'll rarely see her on videos because she doesn't like that. She's kind of a behind-the-scenes, hard-working woman, and she's not really into the putting her face out there so much. I guess if you dig through our videos, you might see a video of us dancing on a Friday night one night because we couldn't go out on a date, I've kind of made her put her face into the camera. But anyway, my wife has done something over the years that I never really understood what she was doing. I just saw the results. And it wasn't until maybe a year or two ago that I learned or heard a story that kind of put it into perspective for me about my wife and what she's done for me personally and for our family and our kids on the spectrum. And the story goes it kind of goes like this. There's a kid that decides to go fishing with his grandpa, and they find an oyster, and he opens the oyster, and inside is a pearl. And it's kind of shocking to the little boy. He's new to the whole thing, and his grandfather, I guess it's his father, is his grandfather, starts to tell him how a pearl is formed. And you guys probably know this, but the way a pearl is formed in an oyster is that a grain of sand will get into inside the oyster, and inside the oyster is some tender flesh. And so in an effort to protect itself from the irritation, the oyster will secrete this pearl and start to wrap it around this grain of sand and turn this grain of sand into this beautiful pearl. And the grandpa, kind of explains how this is a lot like our lives, how we're going to have irritants come into our life. We're going to have problems. We're going to have real serious issues that come into our lives. And we have an opportunity. Those issues and those irritants give us an opportunity in how we manage those things to really create something beautiful. And when I heard this story, I started thinking about my wife. Because as a kid, I was a little bit brutal. I kind of grew up in maybe what some would call a tough neighborhood, and had learned some habits that weren't very nice. And I recall I brought those into our marriage. We've been married 26 years. But when I first came into our marriage, I brought a lot of those brutal elements, those elements of my past that really, I'm sure, in looking back, could have been tremendous issues and irritants for my wife. Our very first argument, I think, was I wanted to wear a khaki colored suit after Labor Day. And we argued about this, and she put her foot down and said it's not going to happen. Now, this was 26 years ago, so the rules have changed. But back then, it wasn't, she liked fashion, and she said, you're not wearing a khaki suit after Labor Day. And I got so mad, I punched a hole in a wall. And looking back, I'm thinking, how stupid was I, and how patient and kind and loving was she to understand who I was and have the vision that she did to start secreting pearl all over me. And over the years, she's done that for me. And I know she's done that for our family, and especially our kids on the spectrum. My wife has taken, first of all, me, a brutal young man, and I think has turned me into something that's not so bad. Somebody who really has changed so deeply that I don't even have those thoughts anymore. And I know it's because of her love and the way she's treated me and the way she's just secreted her kindness and her compassion and her love all over me. And then I start to think of my kids on the spectrum and how she's taken what a lot of people see as a lifetime of difficulty and just turned it into a beautiful family because of the way she loves and the way she manages, and just, hate to keep going back this, but she just secretes all over the difficulties in our home, and it's turned our home into a home of happiness and joy. If you haven't figured it out by now, you kind of know why I'm a big fan of my wife, Shelley. And that's the power that I think love and compassion and kindness can have. And I want to compliment you moms out there who, and even dads, who are taking difficulties and irritants and turning them into beautiful things. And you may not see that because you're working so hard. So let me just make it real clear for you that that is what's happening. The more love and compassion and kindness you show, the more beautiful of a world you're creating. And I know, because I was on a path that probably was going to lead me somewhere that wasn't so good. And thank goodness I met my wife, and she saw the potential that I had, and she saw the potential our family had. And I want to challenge you to keep secreting that pearl that you have all over everybody and everything you come across. And know that you're making the world a more beautiful place. And understand that if it weren't for the hard times, the irritants, you wouldn't understand the good times like you do. And you wouldn't be able to share the empathy you have with others. So honor what you do. I do. I know it matters. And revel a little bit in the joy you're bringing into other people's lives. Have a great day. I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.